are you going to live 10 great years, or are you going to live 1 year repeated 10 times? Right? Like if
Ooh,
you
oh,
look
so
out
good.
into the future, because it is so easy to just fall into
Hmm.
the cycle of day-to-day life. And,
Yes.
when you're looking back 10 years from now, what is it? Is it 10 great years, or is it the same year 10 times?
Before we get into all the stuff you're currently doing, when I was researching you a little bit, I saw one of your old roles where you did demonstration and appraisal of Ontario police fitness testing.
Yes, yes. Those
Yeah.
are
So
way back.
tell me about that.
Yeah, so that basically, like, in order for police officers to be able to apply for jobs, they need to have a current completion of
Hmm.
there's an aptitude test, and then there's a physical test. And I actually can't remember how I stumbled into this group, but there was a group out of
Hmm.
London that
Okay.
basically had the contracts for all of these fitness tests.
Hmm.
And because I did kinesiology and I was um, registered personal trainer at the time with
Yep.
the right sort of
Okay.
organization that you had to be. So it was
Yeah.
the right certification that was required. And so I just got into it. And so it was this group that would go, it was like every weekend to a different city, and there'd be a truck, and you'd have like some people driving in the truck with all the equipment, and
Hmm.
we would set up in, usually in school gyms, and you
Hmm.
just kind of set up all the implements, and then you run the same standardized tests. Like you had to
Hmm.
measure it all out, make sure it was all identical at every test station. And we would run people through this fitness test. And it was, a number of different physical kind of feats, so to speak, that
Yeah.
would be applicable to the, kind of a pursuit and restraint sort of scenario in policing. So yeah, I ran people through that, and we did their times. And actually, it was funny because we got ourselves very proficient at the test itself. And so
Mm.
we would
Okay.
demo it at the beginning, and when you demo it, you could kind of get to a very like leisurely looking pace but still complete the appropriate time. So it was just kind of funny because we often would have like people come up after and say like, hey, you look like you were going slow and I went slow and then I didn't pass.
Right.
But we
Yeah.
just got so used to doing this specific test over
Ah,
and over and over again. So
yes.
anyways, it was a fun thing. I think I did it for a couple of years while I was younger before I really launched into career stuff, and it's good extra money, and lots of kind of young, fit, like personal trainer style people. So it was just like a fun social thing to
Hmm.
be working. And I made a lot of friends through it that I'm still in touch with now.
Oh,
So
is that
yeah,
right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, I just saw that and thought that's so interesting. It also
yeah.
probably captured my attention more than normal because my son is graduating from police college tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Okay.
Yes. So we're going
Wow.
to the graduation. So, I mean, he did have to do fitness testing. And it was also interesting because, so that's the son that did the high rocks with me
Okay.
that you would
Yep.
have seen me training
Yep.
with last year. So, yeah. So he had to obviously keep himself pretty fit.
For sure.
Um,
Yeah.
and he'd always give me updates specifically on things like the beep test, things like that, which is
Mm.
my most hated test that I haven't participated in for years because it gives me anxiety.
Yeah. Well, and why would you, right? By the way, that's goals that you and your son did that High Rocks together. That is
Yeah.
so cool and so special and exciting times for him to be graduating.
Yeah,
That's
yeah. Literally
yeah,
tomorrow. We just got the message and he was giving us, the details about the ceremony tomorrow and time and all that. So very,
very
very
cool.
cool. So there was
Yeah.
that tie-in and I saw that and thought, oh
Yes.
my gosh, that's fascinating. Also for you, that's kind of you wouldn't have known it at the time, but like a foreshadowing, like with some of the type of fitness that we do resembles some of that. Some of
For
our
sure.
testing, like obviously variations, but
Yeah, very functional for
yeah.
sure. Yeah, and a lot of stuff that, once you know how to do it, it's like some of them are little skills, right? Like functional
Hmm.
fitness is supposed to be applicable to daily life,
Yeah.
but there are some movements that you do that you need, to have some technique around. Even if you think about the dead ball cleans and stuff that we do at the gym,
Yes.
there is some real technique around it. And, if I think back to this police fitness testing, especially for females, there's some real technique around it because there are some strength things and some different pieces to that test that, men can do without thinking about, and we have to be a little bit more strategic in terms of how you approach that. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, there is a lot of crossover for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, so cool. So we started kind of back in time, but I want to go even further back in time, and I want to hear. Did you grow up in the Waterloo region?
Just outside. So Waterloo was kind of the big city. I grew up
Hmm.
in Listowel, so not
Okay,
far. Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
And how many? Do you have siblings?
I do. Yeah, I have
Okay,
an older brother and a younger sister.
okay. So you're a middle child.
Yes, very
Are
telling.
you a classic middle child?
Some may say.
Amazing, amazing. And what were you like? How would people have described you as a child?
Oh, I think probably a little intense, like pretty focused and fixated a lot on sports. Um, all of my best friends were boys, and I played
Hmm.
boys hockey until that wasn't possible for me anymore. But yeah, and I think a lot of people would say kind of funny, like a dry sort of wit. So I would say probably my classmates would say not quite class clown, but
Ah.
I was there to make some crack some jokes.
Oh, I love that. I love that. And so, besides sports, what else were you interested in? Did you have ideas about what you wanted to do, as an adult?
Yeah, I think I always knew I wanted it to be, at that time it's now a passion, but to be something in physical fitness, right? So I think my earliest recollection of like an actual vocation would
Hmm.
be probably physiotherapist or
Okay.
something like that. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And at what point did that detour at all? So it is still a passion, but when did you decide consciously, okay, I'm not going to pursue that as my, career or vocation. I'm going to still participate in a lot of that, but I'm going to go in a different direction for vocation.
Yeah, I don't know when physio specifically sort of fell off. I mean, I did go and study kinesiology. I got my honors bachelor in kinesiology, so I followed it to a point. When I got out of school and I got into some personal training, I found that really rewarding. But I sort of was looking at that kind of role and saying, okay, how would I grow in this career? Like, would I
Mm-hmm.
want to be kind of the lead of all of the trainers at a gym? Would I want to be, the owner of a gym? Would I want to be, something kind of in that realm?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, if I'm going to do any of those things, I kind of need to know a little bit more about business. Um, and so I had no formal business training. So that's when I decided that I was like, you know what, maybe I'll go and I'll do my MBA. And that will kind of give me the sort of business, like the language around it, the concept of
Mm-hmm.
how business is run, all of those types of things, so that I could kind of do both and I could kind of have more of a longer path than just, having some clients as a personal trainer. Um, and then once I got into my MBA, I just really kind of liked it. And
Mm.
I had to stop personal training because I was doing my MBA in the evenings. So then,
Oh. Mm-hmm.
in order to make it all work, then I worked at, one of my old summer jobs, and I just got a role in the office in marketing. And so then I was like, well, this is
Mm.
actually pretty fun. Like, marketing's kind of a fun thing to do, and I'm kind of learning the stuff in my evening classes, and then I get to apply it right away. And that's when I was like, well, maybe this business world isn't so bad. Like
Mm.
maybe I can just sort of pursue the fitness stuff on the side as more of an interest.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of where my path, it seems so winding, but in hindsight, it kind of makes sense. So
Sure, sure. There's definitely, yeah, many things in life make sense in hindsight.
for sure.
It can seem like they moved around, but there's a connection there.
Totally. Yeah.
You said you loved it, so you got into the business side of things and you loved it. What do you remember? Like, what did you or what do you love about it?
I think just being able to see, how, your ideas, the programs you run, those like they make real impact to a business. And I think like even just a little bit of foreshadowing, moving from just general marketing into something like loyalty and gift card, it's like, well, those are real core business functions. Like they're really driving real dollars and cents, right? And
Yeah.
so it's a quantitative side of the business. It's not just, all fun and cool ideas and being
Hmm.
creative. It's all of those things plus having a direct line through the business. And so I just thought, being able to like really quantify all of this stuff is really
Mm-hmm.
interesting. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, you don't always get that perfect cause and effect and attribution, but
Yeah. Yeah.
to some degree when you can kind of see that difference,
Yeah.
and I think to some degree a little bit I was learning at the same time, and this is more you know, philosophical kind of thinking, is like I was kind of learning the reality of impermanence, you know, in business. And, you know, the longest standing businesses have all had to reinvent themselves. You know, nothing
Mm-hmm.
really in the, you know, really lasts forever when you think about business dynamics and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found that so interesting. So the fact that you're like, okay, you can grow and scale a business, you can work with a large business, you can work with a small business, and everything has its sort of shelf life.
Mm-hmm.
So I found that sort of intriguing too, because then it gives you some sense of control when you're working with revenue that despite
Yes.
impermanence, you know, you can kind of remake and change and reorient yourself within the
Mm-hmm.
business world, and you're not kind of stuck to one lane or one vocation. There's a lot of adaptability, a lot of opportunity with that sort of business backing.
Mm-hmm. Do you have some businesses that have you've loved to kind of research or look at or analyze how they've pivoted or reinvented themselves? Like, are you drawn to any that you find particularly fascinating?
Nothing in particular, but you know, any businesses I've worked with or any industries I've worked with, you see that there's certain industries that are kind of more prone to that.
Mm-hmm.
They're having to adapt more quickly, and to some degree, it can be due to, you know, what's happening in the marketplace at the time, and they're having
Mm-hmm.
to adapt. You know, like you just think of, you know, online gaming and sports betting and things like that. Like that is it under high growth right now.
Yes, yes.
So those types of things that you experience as a consumer, and then if you think about like what is the business side of that, like to be suddenly in a period of hyper growth and hyper relevance, like how do you adapt to that? So
Mm-hmm.
for me, you know, there's no one business in particular, but just the opportunity that I have in my current role to be able to learn so many different industries, you just can kind of see,
Mm-hmm.
okay, you're at a different stage or inflection point in market maturation right now than, say, maybe another client is. And so it is intriguing.
Yeah. I think it would be fascinating to look at businesses through your eyes because I think you would see commonalities that the average person doesn't see. Like,
Yes, absolutely.
yeah, I think that would be really, really interesting.
It is, and it's, you know, it's a lot of what our clients come to us for too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, sometimes you can have them, you know, bringing forth, you know, some of the objectives that they have, and kind of the opportunity for us to support them. And you know, a lot of times it's sort of, it can be validating or helpful to them to hear, you know, like, by the way, you're not the only business struggling with this. Like, it's so
Mm,
easy for, I mean, us as humans,
yeah,
but like for business leaders to think that, you know, their competitors have it all together, right? And that
yeah.
just isn't the case. And so when you've seen enough in the industry, you can say, you know, this is an area of opportunity for you, absolutely. But it's also not an uncommon struggle to have, or you're not in a
Mm,
spot that is all that different from maybe other people, whether it's your industry or in other industries. And so it can be validating, right? For them to know
mm-hmm.
what is it like out there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. No, I know in life, if I'm experiencing something and somebody else says it's those words, me too, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah,
I experience that too. To know you're not alone in something, yeah, is very calming for sure
for
and
sure.
validating. I'm sure that your job, or I'm assuming that your job has like a whole bunch of different aspects to it. Like your day to day probably looks kind of different. It's not all the
It,
same.
right.
What are some of the favorite parts of your job that you get to do?
Oh, um, probably two. So there's kind of two different stages of a project. We work primarily project based, but there is some retainer and program operations type stuff. But typically project based, I would say the two areas are so interesting when you first dive into a business and you're starting to build the business case for whatever, you know, loyalty or gift card strategy that you're investigating with them. And you just get this like huge download of how are they currently doing things, what do the economics look like, all of that type of stuff. And so it's
Mm-hmm.
so fun to kind of dig in and just sort of
Mm-hmm.
like begin to consider, okay, like how is this all working? And you get to, you know, ask them more questions and go through it all, and you can kind of see how everything flows. And usually very quickly see some opportunity in terms of what could change to give them some real material results. So there's that like early excitement, right, of diving
Uh-huh.
in, getting to know the
Yes.
client a little bit,
Yeah.
having them sort of brag about, the areas of the business that they see working well and like come to you with questions about the areas of opportunity. So that's one area.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the second area is once you've delivered a project, often our clients will have us sort of help them do the little internal roadshow when they've got their leadership alignment,
Mm-hmm.
and they're looking to just bring other stakeholders on board. It's really kind of a fun and exciting way to support the client through that next phase of getting, broader alignment, getting the full team on board, and just being there to answer the questions because you already have sort of this strategy and this delivery that is very specific to their business. And they can see sort of the fruit of your labor. They can see that you spent a lot of time talking to the people, getting to know the business, understanding how it all works, and so that this solution is very bespoke to them. So it's just exciting to get to talk shop as if you're part of
Mm-hmm.
the organization at that point, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you've already gotten to a point where everyone's in alignment and, here are the four right next steps for you guys.
Yeah, yeah. Oh gosh, I think that does sound, and you're very energized when you're talking about it. So it must be something
Yeah,
that kind of really gets you going.
totally,
Yeah,
totally. And it's just a sign of a job well done. And, there's all sorts of paths to get to that point. But when you get to that point with a client, it's like, okay, good. We because we care so deeply about them as people. We get to know them as people so well, and about, helping them build sustainable growth is so important. And so when you care that deeply, when you get to that point, you're like, okay, wonderful,
yeah,
we've delivered, right?
yeah. What are the parts of your job that you'd like to do less of or wish that somebody else could take care of for you?
Ugh, good question. I don't know if I've come across something consistently. Like there's
Okay.
some points, I think there's a lot of points where, you're kind of questioning where what the direction is. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
all super clear every time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes there's some very specific nuances about a business that can kind of leave you sort of scratching your head a little bit. And so I would say it's not a part of the job per se, but a part of my experience of the job sometimes is feeling like I need to have all the answers. So I think my least favorite feeling is feeling like I don't when I feel the burden to have all the answers.
Yes, yes.
Um, and so that's where you just have to remind yourself, like, you can just go back and ask the question, right? You can just
Mm-hmm.
go back and get more information or talk to colleagues in the industry and all of that. There's always options,
Mm-hmm.
right? But when I feel kind of stuck, I think we all get to those points where
Mm-hmm.
you're like, this is a normal sticking point for me.
Yeah.
I feel this high burden to have the answers. And when I don't, I kind of have a moment where I just sort of freeze on it. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like, nope, just keep going. Nothing bad can happen from asking more questions, right?
Right, right.
Yeah.
I relate. I don't like that feeling either. It happens in some small capacity on the regular with me, right? I'll be out showing a property to somebody. They'll ask me a question, either about that house or about something, and I'll just have to say, I'll look into that and get back to you
Hmm.
because I just don't know. Confession: I don't know everything about every house, every neighborhood, every.
Right. And
Yeah,
it's
I
so
admit
funny
it.
that we
Hmm.
feel that burden too, because when you
Yeah,
say it, you're like, well, no, nor should I, right?
yeah.
Nor should I, but
Hmm.
you still feel the weight of that.
Totally. Yeah. It's a tough thing to kind of own up to.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I know that when I first saw your, what is it? Ad, I
Well,
guess,
yes, at the gym.
at the
Yeah.
gym. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder what that is. And then I kind of looked up and it said that you were, in loyalty. And even when we met for coffee, I was like, what is that? Like, I have never met anybody that I'm aware of that's been in kind of the loyalty side of business. So if you were going to present, say, to a high school class, okay, and they wanted to just have a general understanding about your job and what loyalty is, what does that mean, what does that look like, how would you explain that to a high school class?
Yeah, I would just start with like what is the outcome, right? So the outcome is if you take any sort of business, and we'll take like a retailer as an example because they're just super easy, right? So to say, in order to be successful, there are more and more competitors all the time, right?
Hmm.
More and more competitors. And how does a business stay in business is by continuing to, evolve and
Yeah.
bring in more customers. And whether it's bringing in more customers or having their existing customers come more often, spend more, all of those are levers to drive more dollars into the business. And so the important thing for companies is to make sure that they're constantly doing just that, is how do you reward your best customers and ensure that they come back? Now, there's a lot of tenets within the marketing space that tie to that, so you talk a little bit about, okay, brand affinity. Does your brand stand for the right things? Can consumers get behind it from an ethical and a sustainable perspective? There's all of those types of things. But
Mm-hmm.
there's also, what value are you providing to your customer? What experience are you providing to your customer? And just how do you make sure that you're doing right by your customer? Today, there's a lot of data that you get on customers and we give as customers. And so there's some table stakes there in terms of how you're going to use that to make sure that, Wendy gets what she wants. She gets fair prices. She gets, when you come often, that you're rewarded for that in a way that's meaningful to you, whether
Mm-hmm.
it's, some sort of currency or dollars off or some sort of acknowledgement of you coming more often. So yeah, I would just say like loyalty is really about how do you get and keep the best kind of most profitable customers while at the same time delivering value back to them. So it's not just about getting, it's very much a two-way street.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, and the same goes for gift card too. It's really just about like giving another tool, right? To ensure
Mm-hmm.
that you're making sustainable growth in your business, but also giving a tool for consumers to make it easy to come to you and easy to gift.
Mm.
Because we have a big season around that, right? And so how do you find ways to gift, whether it's the products or experiences that mean most to you or that would mean a lot to the person that you're gifting to? So giving a tool for that. And more making it easy so that
Mm.
you don't lose the gift card, it doesn't
Right.
expire, all of those types of things.
Yes.
And so there's
Yes.
this really undertone of making sure that the experience is right and that there is a real balance in the value exchange between customer and business.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember when we met, it's like we started talking about it and then I was seeing it everywhere. Like
Yeah,
even in my mind. I don't mean when we left, but even while we were talking and I thought, "Oh my gosh, yes, of course. I see it in all these places. It's kind of this hidden thing in a way running behind the scenes that a lot of thought is going into, a lot of strategy, a lot of research, a lot of analytics that I just am taking for granted. I've probably thought of it before with, you get 10 coffee stamps and you get a coffee
yes,
free, like the most basic level.
yeah.
So would something like the samples at Costco, would that fit under the loyalty category? Like, is it anything about the experience of the customer? Does that
It
fall under
can
the
be.
heading?
It can be. It's really like the primary piece on Costco is they make it very easy for you to renew, and there's ongoing high frequency, I mean like every week you're feeling value, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they've got a lot built around experience. So certainly
Yep.
like there's the cachet of you're a member, you're not a member, you're getting pricing and you're getting it regularly. It's not, you don't have to wait to feel like you're getting good value.
Yep.
And then certainly that experience of being able to like test, like try it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Try before
Mm-hmm.
you buy. So there's a
Mm-hmm.
huge amount of that. Probably their returns program, like
Oh,
it's very
yes.
easy
The
breezy,
best.
right? And you like that, you
I
appreciate
love
it. And
that.
actually, I don't know about you, but I'm very like, because it's so easy, I actually
Mm-hmm.
feel like I uphold my own higher standard of what I'm going to return
Mm-hmm.
than I would. Like, you don't feel like you need to get around certain rules. You're just like,
Yes.
it didn't work out and I'm going to bring it back and I don't feel guilt and I don't feel like I need to skirt a system, right? Like, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
make it easy and just make it transparent. And so I think all of those pieces certainly lead to that kind of
Yeah.
loyalty and sticking with it. Yeah.
I had never thought about that before. That's the thing. I only think about like kind of the rewards side of things. But just yesterday, there was something, and I thought if it were a different store, I probably would have hesitated buying the item because it's like, well, if this doesn't work out, it's such a hassle. but they're knowing if it doesn't work out, like I'm just going to try it. I'm not trying to abuse the system, so to speak, but
Yes,
I
yeah.
feel very confident to take something and give it an honest try. And I go, if this product doesn't work for me, it's so simple for me to return it. And that's
Yeah.
huge for me. So you're right. That's a major loyalty piece for me.
It's huge. And, it's kind of like if you take the Costco example and you make it kind of akin to saying, okay, you've got what's your base salary versus what is your all-in compensation package, right? So,
Okay.
like, usually you've got like base, you've got some sort of benefits, you've got maybe a bonus, you've got possibly some pension matching, like, you have all those things that are in the mix, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I would say for Costco, it's all of those things we just talked about are kind of like the and. But they also have with their credit card and just with their programs in general is they also have like you get percentages back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
depending on what you spend over the year, you get a certain percentage back, and then you get it as a gift card, right? So that you
Mm-hmm.
can go and spend again. And so there's real dollar
Mm.
value. So that'd be the equivalent of a program saying, okay, yeah, we've got, you're getting certain currency back to then redeem for,
Yeah.
which is fantastic because it keeps those dollars in their universe, right? Like it's
Yes.
going to stay with Costco, just like your redemptions at Starbucks are going to stay with Starbucks.
Yep.
It's like almost like a stored value type concept. And then all of these other things stack up to say, oh, my experience is really good. I feel valued, right? I see value pretty consistently. I don't have to wait for value. I mean, I have to wait for my 2% at the end of the year, but I don't have to wait, to feel valued otherwise in terms of like
Mm-hmm.
ease of returns and all those things we talked about, right? So it's no different than saying like, that sort of analogy to the all-in compensation. Like there are many things that contribute to loyalty above and beyond just what is like the very core value back program that they provide.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, there's so much to it. It's so fascinating since you've opened my eyes to this. It really is. I can see why you could really, get into it and really enjoy it
Hmm.
and then try and, move some levers and make a difference.
For sure.
Do you, I know sometimes a marketing company or an ad company, they have like a client they'd love to land, that somebody they'd love to work with. Have you ever thought about that? Is there a company out there that you would love to work on their loyalty program?
Oh yeah, of course. There's some really, I don't know, like excellent gold standards, and it's so interesting because they're in industries I would never typically be interested in working with, but you're like, you do loyalty so well.
Huh?
I would say that the two biggest that always come to mind and always bear recognition
Mm.
is McDonald's.
Okay.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
they are incredible at what they do. They've
Yeah.
built a really solid program and scaled globally, which is like usually where brands falter. Like that's
Mm.
hard to do,
Mm-hmm.
because you're trying to provide relevant
Yeah.
value back, and when
Yeah.
you're trying to provide global relevant, like it's
Yes.
different by market,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
I think they've done a fantastic job. And then oh, I'm dropping the name. The makeup company.
There's so many now.
I know.
And you're like, who are they? Who are they?
I know. Oh, this is a bummer.
Like
Anyways,
like a big one, like a Maybelline, a L'Oreal, like one of those, or no more?
no, like Sephora, sorry,
Oh,
Sephora.
okay,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So it's
Gotcha.
funny. I'm like, oh, this
Yeah.
one I think about. I'm like, I can
Yes.
see the store.
But the name won't come.
But
Okay. Mm-hmm.
they've done a really good job as well. And they've
Uh-huh.
done a great job of just like, if you've had this, you might like that. Like they're sort of like
Mm.
product recommendations, samples, like
Mm-hmm.
providing, gifts throughout the year to their
Yeah.
members. But they've been interesting too because they've spent a lot of time building partnerships outside of their core program. And so I think historically, a lot of people have said, I either need my own program or I need to partner. And there's a lot of folks saying, well, why can't we do both, right? So,
Yeah.
there's probably an opportunity to do both. And whether it's just strategic partnerships or true like loyalty partnerships,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of companies starting to do that. And it increases your reach, and it helps you bring value to customers, who may not otherwise become a member for whatever reason. So
It's so interesting. I'm going to be just like watching for it now. What is that cognitive bias where you know, like when you're aware of something, you notice
suddenly you
it?
see it everywhere.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
whatever that
yeah,
one's called,
yeah,
definitely. It was happening when we were talking for sure. But then, yeah, I'm going to be going around and going, oh, loyalty, loyalty,
yes, yeah.
just seeing it on every corner. I know typically you are, you're working with companies of varying sizes on programs like
Hmm.
this. If you were to take these principles and say, if I said, what could I take as a realtor as a transferable learning in how to think about loyalty with my clients? What could be a transferable learning for me, or maybe just another kind of entrepreneur just wanting to apply it?
Yeah, I think the concept that spans across industry is just the concept of, you know, how are you building your pipeline? How are you beginning to reach prospective clients, customers, members, etc.? And understanding that when you reach them, there's kind of phases that they're going to go through, and loyalty can help
Mm-hmm.
bring them further down the pipeline or further
Mm-hmm.
down the funnel.
Yep.
But things like loyalty, it can be different things at different stages. So, how do you make them aware of what it is that you do, and try to appeal to, the value that you offer, and is that, a core value of theirs? Think about real estate. Like, how do
Mm-hmm.
you get in front of prospective clients and let them know what it is that you do differently than other agents?
Mm-hmm.
How will you create value for, some of the biggest and most important transactions they'll have in their lifetime,
Right.
of which they'll only perhaps have a few, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's a big moment that matters, and
Mm-hmm.
so building that trust and being able to share it. So I think the concept of pipeline and saying, as
Mm-hmm.
soon as someone hears about you, they're not necessarily going to be in a life position where they need your services. And so how do you sort of nurture the lead, so to speak? Like, that would be the way that you guys would kind of speak about your
Right.
clients, right? And
Right.
how do you
Yep.
nurture the lead? And so that when they are at a point where they need your product or service or what have you, that they understand what you stand for, and they can
Mm-hmm.
see the connections to their values.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that you're going to deliver, because there's that connection, but also, like, do I trust that someone's going to deliver? So, like, do I like them? Right? Do I like this person? Do I
Sure.
trust them? Do I feel good about them? And then, are they going to help me get the best price in the right place? And are
Mm-hmm.
they going to be there for me to make sure that I get it? Because I mean, I know in your world, and I can appreciate it just as being a client a couple of times, is saying, like, once you're in it, you're in it. And if you're putting in offers, like, it's happening now, right? So how do I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
that this person's going to be attentive and make sure that we get through this, and get
Mm-hmm.
the right place,
Mm-hmm.
or put in the right offer, or all of those things. So it's really, I think, the biggest piece that most people can take away of is just being aware of, like, what are you doing to nurture all different levels of that client or customer pipeline,
Mm-hmm.
and what might your clients need at different points? Like, what might help you stay top of mind? And not everything is going to lead to a listing or a sale, right? There's different endpoints for people at different phases.
Yeah, yeah. And while we were talking, I was thinking about sometimes what we think about. We don't think about those stages. We think about things more over, like the closing gift, or Christmas touch points, or very specific things like that. And I know this is where some of the analysis you guys do with the effectiveness within companies I find fascinating, because it isn't just about, oh, give people more stuff, right? Because that's not necessarily, well, one, it won't always land. Two, you that's not always good business to just give more, right? Like there's costs. So I've seen some agents over the years that they bought their, as a closing gift, like a barbecue and a this and a that. And I thought, like, do you do that for every deal? Like, are you buying someone these extravagant closing gifts? And is that, I don't know, does that make sense strategically to do something like that?
Yeah.
So it would be interesting.
Yeah, it's like what's a race to the bottom versus what is like a really well-timed, thoughtful
Huh.
point of connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure in your industry too, is as much about what people hear you say as it is about what they see you do. And
Mm.
that's true of us as people, out in the world is, am I saying I'm a certain way or are you observing me in a certain way? And so in a lot of ways, it's probably maybe not even about all of those points in time of like gifting or hosting or all of those things.
Sure.
Maybe it's, you're out at a golf tournament and it's a charity golf tournament and you're helping facilitate and you're giving your time back and you're supporting it. And people kind of see, you know, this person's really doing a lot of good. And I see how they kind of like carried themselves that day and spoke to the group and all of that type of stuff that it's kind of like they observe you in action as a human being,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it adds so much value to you as a potential option for like closing a huge deal in real estate or listing their home to move to something different. Again, they're such sentimental and important moments in time, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I love that you bring that up. I really do, because I think sometimes we do think about it in that specific way. Think about that coffee card
Yeah.
punched, or some of the PC points or those types of things, but we're not thinking always holistically. And what you just described is holistic. It gets back to like brand,
Hmm.
identity. So that's really, really great for any business to remember. It's not just one piece, it's all the pieces.
Yeah.
It's the sum total, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
Wow. Interesting stuff that you do. Um, how you have two children?
Two boys.
Two
Yeah.
boys.
Yeah.
Okay. How old are
Yeah.
they?
5 and 6.
5 and 6.
Yeah.
So you've got this very fulfilling, work that you do, and you have a young family.
Mhm.
What do you do to, balance these things and give priority where you want it to be?
Yeah, so I've been lucky because since joining Loyalty and Company and my longtime friend and mentor, Joanna, who's the co-founder and now CEO, is this whole new world for me has allowed me to do just that. It's allowed me to balance things more. And there's the being there at pickups or being there at drop-offs, like there's the being there part, but there's also the how you show up, right? And so I
Mm-hmm.
think having a structure in the business where I can have a little bit more breathing room between work and family, and when you kind of like flip that switch at the end of the day or at the start of the day, um, just being more present, and I think we all just enjoy our time more when I'm not feeling rushed, right? Or I
Yeah.
don't have it's not that I don't certainly have the weight of the client delivery on my mind, but I just
Mm-hmm.
have enough of a buffer between those different roles in my day that allows me to make that switch a little bit more
Mm-hmm.
smoothly.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I don't think I fully realized that until I did make the switch from like a full corporate role with lots of travel to this to
Yeah.
say, wow, this feels different. Like just that extra 30 minutes at the start of the day and at the end of the day makes such a world of difference.
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't realize how much of the other, sort of busy work can kind of weigh on your bandwidth.
Yeah.
So now when I'm doing work, I'm doing the real work. Like I don't have a day full of meetings that I'm just expected to, sit on and make decisions. It's
Mm-hmm.
if I'm on a meeting, I'm delivering or I'm kicking off a project, and otherwise I'm doing the work. And so it's been really nice to make the main thing the main thing.
Yes.
Um, and it's really allowed me to kind of change how I show up for my family.
Hmm. Oh my goodness. It sounds like you're in a really good rhythm right now
Yeah.
with just your overall life and flow. You're still prioritizing, your fitness, you get that in, you're getting quality work that you're feeling like you're accomplishing things, and having quality time with your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's really phenomenal, especially in a really busy season of life, because the
Yes.
kids need a lot of your attention at this stage. And they will want
Absolutely.
it much longer. I will tell you from having older children, even when they don't need you. They want you to be available for when they need you. So,
Yes, yeah,
yeah, so that
yeah.
doesn't go away for a long time.
Well, that's good because we do
Mm-hmm.
have moments where our
Mm-hmm.
oldest gets a little too cool for school and we thought, oh man, I thought we had a few more years, right? So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
but yeah, it's such an important time for
yeah.
sure.
No, they definitely want their independence, but it's just like when they want you, you're supposed to
You
be
got to be
available.
available. Yeah.
That's the way it works, don't you know?
Yeah, yeah.
Is there anything about, well, actually, anything about anything in specific that we haven't touched on that you were hoping to talk about or that you think might be interesting or helpful for someone listening?
Yeah, I don't know. I think like you and I sort of talked about this a little bit when we went out for coffee. And I think like, it's just always worth reflecting on how you think you're doing in the different areas of life and how like in line with your values you maybe are. And I just found, it's so easy to start to justify things. And you and I have talked about this a lot, right? Is it's easy to justify a way of being over time that maybe is shifting a little bit further from
Mm-hmm.
where you felt your true values were.
Yes.
Um, and whether that's personal interests or whether it's your job or whether what have you, all different areas of life. But I just find it so interesting, like something that I started to write down because it's easy to justify in just a fleeting thought, but how are you kind of keeping stock of how close or far are you from each of those values in your different areas of
Mm-hmm.
life? And certainly something that I'd look forward to exploring with you more because I know that you do, some coaching and some other
Yes.
things as well.
Yes.
And it's such an important part because it's, there's how you show up and how people
Mm-hmm.
perceive how you show
Yes.
up, but there's, like, are you really in line with
Mm.
where you drew the line on the values?
Yeah.
And have you outgrown that?
Mhm.
Or are you just kind of drifting a little bit further away? And is there a way to kind of keep yourself or, friends, support like
Mm-hmm.
accountable to that,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love that you bring that up. It's there's a tool we use regularly in coaching called the Wheel of Life. And basically, I don't know if you're familiar with it, if you've ever seen it, but it
No.
would look like a pie, or if you think of like a Trivial Pursuit pie, okay, with
Okay.
all the
Yeah.
different sections. And there's typically eight areas, and we label each one of the areas a different kind of area of your life, right? I like the circle because the circle, like it's the whole of you. So
Hmm.
one of the sections is like friends and family, one is, finances, one is work, one is personal growth, your health, your significant other. I'm probably missing some off the top of my head, but basically, kind of you think about, okay, if you were dividing your life up into the different segments, this represents them. And then I give the tool to clients, and I say, I want you to, if the center is like 0 and the outer rim is 10 out of 10, like awesome, doesn't need attention, I'm totally fulfilled, and the center is not at all fulfilled, I want you to draw a line in that pie to represent where you're at. How fulfilled are you in this area of your life? So the reason that language is so important, I say, if you make, say money, and you're making 250,000 a year, somebody might put that at 10 out of 10, but Bill Gates would maybe put that at like 1 or 0, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not good at all for him. That's failure for him. But for
Hmm.
somebody else, that's really great. So it isn't what's actually going on. It's how fulfilling is it for you? How satisfied or fulfilled are you in that area?
Hmm.
And then we just kind of go around, and it gives us a picture, a baseline of what's going on. And typically, well, I don't think I've had a single client where all of the areas are at the same level.
Right.
There's always a couple areas that are probably at a 4 or 5, some that are at an 8 or 9. But you
Yeah.
can see then, if that's your life and that becomes the wheel that you're riding on, why you're getting some like bumps in the ride, right?
Yeah. And it's such a powerful thought to break it out like that because, then you can go back and assess and say, okay, maybe like I'm a 10 on work and I'm a 3
Mm-hmm.
on family, but
Mm-hmm.
like I have a young family. Shouldn't I be, you know what I mean? Like
Mm-hmm.
shouldn't that be an area of focus? And so you can kind of start to say like
Yeah.
what parts of my life are like my main focus right now. And even if
Yes.
it's not for the next year, even if it's for a shorter chunk of time, like,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what would I need to be more fulfilling and what maybe is highly fulfilling, but like maybe isn't mattering that much at this phase in life, right?
No, exactly, exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why sometimes I won't necessarily say, let's work on the lowest one. I'll say what feels like it needs your attention right now. That's one
Yeah, for
thing.
sure.
And recognizing there's actually two ways to work on any pie. One is by actually changing the circumstance. So if you hate your work, like you could get a different job. That's one way to do it, like actually completely change the situation. The other, though, is to think about what is it like? Is it your expectations? Is it how you're thinking about work? And that you're
Hmm.
expecting something that may or may not be helpful the way you're approaching it. A good one for this to understand is people who are single. I've had clients who are single that when it comes to that significant other, like they'll give themselves like a 9 out of 10. They're like, I don't have anybody right now, but I'm so happy in this space right now. So don't assume because you don't have a significant other that you're at a zero or a one.
Right. Yeah.
Their outlook was, no, I'm totally happy in this area of my life right now. So
Hmm.
I don't need to work on it. So sometimes it's how you're thinking about it, how you're looking at it. And sometimes it is maybe, yeah, you might need an actual change.
Right. Yeah.
So it's, yeah, it's very, very interesting. So I'm
It's
really
very
glad that
interesting. Yeah.
that you brought that up. It's
Yeah.
fascinating and it's good to do every once in a while, like you're talking about, because we do start to drift. Um, and it's good to kind of check back and see where are you, like
Hmm.
what areas, how would you rate them? We're so busy in the, living every day, the
Yep.
daily grind, that we're not always in that take stock phase.
Yeah, for sure. And I've worked with a coach for a long time, and one of the things that he said that has stuck with me, and I swear he said this probably like in one of the first 5 meetings I ever had with him years ago, but he said, you know, like, are you gonna live 10 great years or are you gonna live 1 year repeated 10 times? Right? Like if
Ooh,
you
oh,
look
so
out
good.
into the future, because it is so easy to just fall into
Mm-hmm.
the cycle of day-to-day life. And, you
Yes.
know, when you're looking back 10 years from now, what is it? Is it 10 great years or is it the same year 10 times?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
In many talks I've given, I said we do 80% of our life is habitual. We do things the same 80% of the time just because that's the way we've always done them. And you just don't think about it. And that's your
Yeah.
brain being efficient, right? It's like,
Of
oh,
course.
this
Yeah.
is the path of least resistance. So let's just keep on it. But I say to people, if it's working for you and you're just totally happy in all those areas of your life, awesome. Then keep doing it. But if you're not, then you need to start looking and going, what are the things that I'm doing that are getting me these results, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
And let's take a look and make some changes. Yeah. And usually you do feel them. Somebody just has to draw your attention to it. You'll have
Of
a
course.
little niggle, a little something that isn't
Yeah.
totally rocking and rolling. And
Yeah.
it's learning to pay attention to that. And truthfully, even though I, know better, I just am going through that again in my own life where I've felt it for a while, but haven't been able to identify it.
Yes,
Like,
you identified after you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess
yeah.
I've kind of felt this way for a couple of years, right? Like,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
wild how much time, and you're like, oh, I
Yeah,
didn't really know what it was. And certainly
yes.
people, I mean, Wendy, you would be very practiced in terms of kind of more looking inward, right? Like,
Hmm.
where am I at? Being
Yeah.
pretty self-aware, right?
Hmm.
And it's a practice, it's a muscle you have to practice with.
Yeah.
So people that are new to it, you're like, okay, well, yeah, it would be
Hmm.
very hard to sort of put your finger on something like that
It is.
until you have support of someone like you as a coach, right?
Hmm. Yes.
Yeah,
And right, that certainly shortens the time period to have somebody else perhaps point out some things, reflect the mirror back at you,
yeah, yeah,
can make that a little more compressed, which is
yeah.
helpful.
It's very cool. It's very interesting. Yeah.
It's very interesting. Yeah, I love it. Do you have time for two or three rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. If you weren't in your current career, what's a different path you'd love to try?
Ooh. Um, shamelessly, I would love to be like a woodworker. I would love to do like custom cabinetry or fine furniture. And certainly, like, I just like
Yeah.
dabbling. I've done a couple of smaller projects. So I do not have the skill set to just launch into a
Mm,
career like that. But
yeah.
I love the idea of making something tangible, like
Mm,
of working with my hands. I really quite enjoy that. So like,
hmm.
yeah, I would just do something like that.
Yeah, fascinating. I
Yeah.
like that. Well, that could be, you could get into that. That could start with as a hobby.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's one of the best compliments a client or coworker has ever given you?
Um, I don't know if it's like a specific compliment, but I think in times where I've maybe questioned myself, like I've gotten some reassurance. Um, to just say like you really do understand the business, right? Like you've really I can see that you can connect the dots quickly on how this all works. And so I think like again, not a specific comment, but
Hmm.
in those times of
Yeah,
questioning,
yeah,
right? To
yes.
just be
The
reassured and then be
yes.
like, yeah, no, like you
Mm-hmm.
picked this up quickly, like that's not easy to do. It's a nuanced business.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. And reassurance. It's one of my favorite things. I live on it.
Yeah.
It's like air. Please just
Yes.
reassure me, reassure me. Okay, good. Whew.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, okay, this is one of my favorite questions, but for some people it's easy, for some people it's really difficult. So don't feel bad if you don't have one on the spot, okay? But if your business, like you in your business, put it this way, had a theme song, what would it be?
Ah. That is such a good question.
I love the question, but I'm going to tell you, I wouldn't be able to come up with one on the spot. My mind would go blank, but I'm like, but I love the idea of the question. Like, you're
Yeah.
coming on, you get on a business call, whatever, and like what would be announcing you would be like your
What's
song
your
playing.
walk-up song? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I will say like a fatal flaw of mine is that I love music, but I am very bad at recalling artist and song name. I just know it. So I do a lot of like
Yes.
Googling of lyrics. So
Same.
I would say fatal
Hmm.
flaw, but that
Hmm.
will be something I'll have to think
Okay.
on, but that
Yeah.
is such a good
I will
question. I
I will
love it.
leave that with you. And yes, if
Yeah.
you come up with one by the time I post this and share it, I can share it in the
Yes.
notes
Okay.
and we can
Okay.
let people know. So people, if you're listening, you got to go check out the notes because we'll see what Nikki's
Yes.
walkout song is. Love it.
Yeah.
This was great.
Thank
We're
you.
just gonna now we're just gonna have to go back to coffee again because I just feel like we have more to talk about.
Absolutely. I
And your
would
work
love
is
that.
so fascinating, and I just want to hear about what you're working on and who you're working
Yeah.
with and the
Yeah.
problems you're solving and how you're making things better. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
it's easy for me to just you're talking and I get all like, ooh, let me get in there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you maybe crossing paths on Saturday.
Yeah.